Okay. It's one of those camera stoppages. Well, we're having a good day. I'm like, I'll take it. Yesterday was a bit weird. Today, it's weird. Like every day in my life, I'm aware, and I'm aware that I'm aware, at almost like a supersonic, supertronic, subtronic level of the warp and weft of what may or may not turn into the joy of my life. And because I'm err on the side of being extremely paranoid, and I could sit here and if you said to me, Landon, you're just extremely paranoid. And to be fair, like to me and you, I would at that point want to be able to talk for 8 hours about why I'm paranoid. You would elicit from me a very defensive attitude based on ways that my observations from even how my balls feel one day over the course of the last few years about what may or may not be happening around me. Because believe it or not, as anonymous a bullshitter as I am, I always find myself connected to human beings, somehow in danger of what they consider important. I want that to end, and I'm working to end that as part of the purpose of my life. First off, in my own life. Now, some of that is going to be, like in the tarot, dropping some of my own swords. Once I feel like I can trust certain things or myself a bit better, you would say that I could trade paranoia for trusting myself. Let's say all these things are true, but you can trust yourself and you don't have to obsess about them anymore. So I can be my own psychiatrist in a way. And you would say, dude, man, like you're your own psychiatrist. I've had my guru in my pocket. I've got my guru in my pocket. Ooh, ooh, I've got my guru in my pocket. Drink guru. I mean, don't worry, I'm just as homely as I look. I'm totally unpopular, and you should count coup, and you have more power than. And my video sucks, and I should kill myself and my penis on live TV. But not poor message, sponsored by Guru. So you'll see that Guru isn't really benefiting from it whatsoever. It's kind of the opposite of an ad placement. It's like people are like, you don't need to advertise anymore. Thank you, Mr. Landon. We can't technically tell you not to, but our lawyers say that if you do it again, we can strap your ass for 30,000 pounds. Oh, I've got 30,000 pounds. Oh, yeah, we know you do. We've already collected that from your YouTube channel. I wonder, like, it has, like, what else could I talk about to get a strike on my channel? Because I've gotten strikes for hate speech about 10 times. If my channel is deleted for profoundly anti-Semitic songs, which I won't repeat, I deleted in 15 minutes after I got them. That's how bad it was. It wasn't that bad, but I guess it's more like the energy I had behind it. It wasn't really about Jews so much. It was like the energy, like I said, in the sort of micromanagement of my energy that I was picking up increasingly from myself, from the environment, from, if you will, my relationship with YouTube. And my viewers, which were, 3 or 4 regular sort of people, right? And it was not turning out well for me in the way that I wasn't unhappy. I just wasn't happy. I just had some water. That is perfect. And we'll just do a little stretch. I had an incredible thought here at the side of the river for that. we have these benches and they put these little flags based on somebody dying. And even that's a religion. I don't want to disrespect these people or their spirits, but look at how it's spelled in all capital letters, which is the capitalization of the human spirit, right? It's capitalized the name. There's no mistaking it. That is a very particular use of the English language, which has kind of the maximum connotations, like a vessel, even in the name itself, for something else that is to be possessed. And having adequately possessed the person, they therefore rest in peace. And that could be put above every theater, every place of schooling, every daycare, every airport entry to a country, every place that you enter a new county, or province, or township. You could have that ego parago demaco. And you would see that every day. But I just saw something on the river, which is, in a related sense, very, I think, something I could use to illustrate things to myself, starting with that. And I want to be very careful how I approach this, because if you think I've already been a bit disturbing, it's going to be disturbing to some people. To me, it's the next level of disturbing in terms of the most disturbing things I've seen in my mind. And in all fairness to nature, the most disturbing thing I've ever seen in nature, and as much as I'm interpreting a particular thing in nature this way. And so I'm speaking in a lawful way, in an honest way, and I'm getting good runes and good feedback from nature and good things. So it's like I'm operating in good state. You know, I'm getting permission to talk about this. It's good, because it wouldn't show things if I couldn't talk about it. It's disturbing even to me. I mean, I want to traipse around this area, but I just, as a writer too, I'm always kind of cautious as I begin speaking about certain things, or even if I should at the moment. It was just such an extraordinary little interaction I had with the river while I was stretching, and before I was stretching, and that I don't want to justify smoking weed all day, but I'm smoking a very potent form of weed that I don't normally smoke. It's very sativa, and I'm just very lit up. And it's nice that, you know, it replaces the anxiety that I might have had yesterday, and feels, if I may say, just talk around this illustration, which was so by nature. You know, just talk around it like you would put a vagina around it, you know, make a woman out of it, or see something that's the most real knowledge that could live in a woman's vagina, and help us to understand her vagina and to understand where we come from. If to understand the vagina would be to understand everything we needed, or the next step in needing not everything, because it never was everything, but we could come back to the vagina and understand something we needed to understand that was an illustration that could be wrapped by the vagina, because it would have to do in that wrapping something that we hoped at least to put some honest faith into, that we could question along the way, something that would lead to something good growing in the world. So if you looked at a woman's vagina and you saw something could grow from getting to know that vagina in any and every sense, or that woman, or the vagina of new things, which is her new things and your new things, and she's not to be reduced to just a vagina, or she could just be a fictional entity, the archetypal woman, who is also all knowledge, all justice, all law, the voice of all goodness and greatness, preserved and protected by all that is the strength and ferocity of woman as a whole creation in herself, in whom all of creation could be known and understood, and all of its intimacies. But anything that hurt, or deceived, or struck, or tortured human beings would have to defile this powerful female stasis and continuum and basis for all the signaling systems that man would want to come to understand about his own body and his own existence. But the best, or more ferocious, or needful, or mysterious knowledge could be wrapped in the vagina. Preface to understanding it and taking lawful steps to make sure that you preserve your responsibilities to what you're thinking, because you're thinking about very powerful things. I'm good to put that to a preface of a book I haven't written yet, but I think that's really important, you know, to all of us, because I've said, like, the most intimate knowledge should be like a good experience with the opposite sex, where you spend the priority of your time preserving the safety of what is worth producing if it's worth interacting in an intimate way. What's worth creating before you ever get a child in terms of your safety. Are you safe just having sex with anyone? Even if you love someone and you've got good jobs, I don't care if you're married or you've known someone a long time. Is it time to just have sex one day because it feels right? It's a big decision. And maybe that decision has already been kind of made. But I don't want to come into that decision as though it's already been made for me. That I meet a female, and to be romantically interested means that, basically, like, this is the person I'm going to have sex with. That if it's even safe being around her, which is good, and my safety isn't threatened by her, and I'm not threatening her safety, wow, that's 3 big fucking check marks. And we can spend, and no one gets this to suspend, with the priority of any kind of physical intimacy for any reason, interactions that have a consistent and veto power dominant interest in preserving and expanding the safety, which is your primary object in all of your relationship. Right? Imagine if a human relationship, like the mother and father of the world, was all about keeping everybody safe, because that's the root of your immune system. So even a story about that, about 2 people meeting who prioritize your safety over a broken condom and a couple of drinks at the bar, right? You know what I mean? And even if that happened to you or your siblings or whatever, your children, because if it happened to you, it happened to your children. This is more about, we all sort of need this. We can all poke fingers at each other where our lives started, and we started other lives maybe, and we've gone about tumbling through 1,000 years of human history, and we do the best we can because people have a lot of control over what we may ever say to ourselves, a lot of which might seem very surreal to a lot of human beings whose minds may have been otherwise disposed for long periods of the industrial time period in terms of a particular use and approach to the use of human beings for any and all purposes, with which we have construed our otherwise or notwithstanding amazing and wonderful, highly sacrificial lives of no certain safety from day to day from any number of illnesses and poverties and specters of illness, disease, and domestic and international doom for one thing or another. So, real and imagined. You think these people in these cars do not live with some anxiety in their heart? Their cars are like their hearts, constantly running out of gas. The car becomes a symbol of the worker driving the car. The car is a part of you because the car needs gas. The car is sort of owned by you, but sort of not. You're kind of at the mercy of the dealer in every way. You can be stopped and held responsible for defects in your car or dangers you and your car might pose to the world around you, even if you just can't afford the maintenance. You might, if you see speeding as a defect or a danger or a potential danger to others, to me, within a certain range, yeah, that should be modified. Well, I haven't seen any too weird people today. I mean, we have, but we haven't. And As the weather changes every year, even just the looks on people's faces, the types of gazes I might get, people are coming out. People are hungry. People are fatigued. If you're dealing with white people in a tourist location with trailer parks and the like, and you walk around, there's a lot of retired old people and young sexually precocious people. You might credit a lot of the ill feelings you get about them or with them, to watch them walk or to hear them talk or yell or scream or at you, that they have a lot of, just like the fatigue in their cars, and not just the years or the turning of the stars around the earth, really, but from the years of service to their jobs. In the various, and not, absolutely, you'd say, in terms of how usefulness this is, even if it is truthful, it might not always be useful to acknowledge that fact, although it's buried in every language of the world that all these jobs are for the banking systems of the world. And has to be comprehended, or is meant to be, as God, or next to the most controlling type of intelligence that is worth, no matter what, giving your life to. And it's made easy for you, the way if you were raised in a bar and you had to learn to drink and poison yourself. They would give you little sips. A little sip here, a little sip there. Santa Claus is a sip, right? Sipping sugar out of a cup is a sip. Growing up in a home, listening to people, even when you don't understand what they're saying, arguing about money is a sip. I'm feeling as though in your nervous system, in ways that the greatest doctors in the world might not be able to elicit from you verbally or with a coloring book or anything else. Missing your mother or father when they go to work, or war, or divorce, or some accident or death that may not entirely be an accident. It might have been preventable, but in ways and to proportions that go to where the organs of the world and the banking system have claims upon your blood and the organs thereof. And what comes about here, there, due to what could be enumerated as a range of costs and effects and persuasive possibilities and potentials when people live as we might, and enter into various matrimonial contracts and other contracts in life based on a series of assumptions that attend or subtend a series of claims that are made upon their time as children, in any sense that, from the most violent thing, makes a claim upon your time. It is then a matter of close observation by interested and capable people as to whether or not it's a good claim. So look at time and people's time, look at their health and the claims upon their time, right? And the amount that they lie and the ways that they die. And then think of what you think about time and your time. And think about how so much when they're young, who have all the time in the world and feel that way. And what happens to that as you age? That's not trivial. That's everything. That's part of I saw in nature. I'm just talking around it and protecting it. I just gave a breath, a sigh of relief. My right testicle feeling so strange today as it was yesterday. As I enter the park, that's a good thing. The panic attack was a little less. If you were around me or you saw me walking down your street, you might say, I can imagine, in terms of my estimation of white people, if you're at all curious at all, you'd probably say, hey, Landon, why do you wear that hat? It's really interesting. And even if you just watch TV on a regular basis, you can tell characters actually understand the different tones of speech of other characters when they're less than enthusiastic about something they're trying to like about their significant other. In this way, teaching you a kind of language, a tonal body language. This is why women have become so aggressive and sarcastic. It's from watching TV. And how TV has just penetrated into the zeitgeist and the body language of white people. So, you might come up to me and say, why do you wear that hat? And I would be unsure as to whether or not you were being aggressive with me. I might consider it sexual assault. Whereas if you said to me, hey, I like your hat, and as you got to know me, if I permitted you one day, I would let you know why I wear this hat. But what I'm willing to tell you on YouTube is that it helps me identify predators. And we could just call it a day. If I'm not safe wearing this, well, that's good to know, isn't it? It's always good to know if I'm not safe wearing a particular color hat from you or any number of people who you might think, why wouldn't you ask? It looks weird. Exactly. And if I saw a Sikh or if I saw an Orthodox Jew, I should ask, why they look so Jewish. And that would be okay with you. And that wouldn't be, against the law in some parts of the world. But when you ask me a similar question, violate my rights, safety in this world, it's just another Tuesday for you. And my objections are as nothing. And I'm just a crazy person, or a Jew, which I am, by the way. A crazy Jew, you would say. And that's, in your life, ethical. And you want your children to learn that and to feel the same way. You want your dogs to learn that. Think about what I've seen in females and over 200 IQ, given the use of the human voice, which is more than the cellos of the world. All the violins, all the pianos, and I was open. Right? All the music, and not just mine, but the voice of the blood of man, wrapped in a beautiful, because that's where mine comes from, right? And that has nothing to do with my sexual, right? Before you even think about sex, don't go near my fucking knowledge. If you're fucking right now, I don't want anything to fucking do with you. It's not about getting an erection. It's not about fucking a woman. It's about not fucking them, not fucking ourselves, and unfucking all human beings, and unlocking the fucking treasure that is no fucking Pandora's box. It's not a box. It's our roots. It's our tender voices and the tender shoots of those voices every spring. And they've been molested enough. And I am one of the shoots of the shoots going, hey, we've been molested enough. We've got a fucking mind. We've got a voice. If this doesn't need to happen, then guess what? You'll hear the sound of my voice. And when you do, you gotta fucking start doing something different. That's the challenge. Do something different when you hear the voice of human suffering. Put into the most melodic possible way, given all of the circumstances. That you should be thankful to hear the sound of my voice. Because yes, it means there are a lot of things are wrong on the earth. It also means a lot of things are right. And getting better every day. And I can have a new religious YouTube channel called Getting Better Every Day, people. I just had my second joint and my first beer in 10 years. Oh, what wagon? You know what I'm saying? Oh, there's a guy that comes here. Keep my voice down. There's another person. Who's in here? Oh, he doesn't seem to be here today. I decided long ago that I've used this part in the forest uncontested for years. But if someone else wants to use it, it's theirs. So I eventually saw a man. I'm not sure if I know him or not, and we seem to be rather respectful distance from each other, so imagine if you're coming in here or you found your way in here that you needed to, so there's no reason to make myself a part of that, and that's basically how I deal with it. He seems to have left the pentagram here. It's nice if someone comes in here and a man, because it's kind of a manly space, and just enjoys hanging out. The sun is coming out. I'm gonna put down my bag for a moment and take the time. In deference to this man's use of the air mic. Let's get in the sun for a sec. The sun is coming over my spot, so. So, added to songs that make me feel good that are from A's TV, Flipper and MASH. Like, basically anyone who grew up in the 80s in North America, or 90s maybe, have heard the song of MASH. You know, in a strange religious sense, you could call it that, the song of MASH. You know, and MASH could be like Shamash, which is the sun, and the song of Shamash, the song of Shamash is the sun. Sorry, did I say the moon? Because, in a sense, what I wanted to talk about today is about the sun and the moon, and how I think they might be reversed in people's minds. But, so we call these Freudian slips, and I think they're actually much more than we think. These are slips of the tongue, if you will. It used to be called slip of the tongue. It's called a Freudian slip of the tongue, where something that seems to contradict what you would think something you would say, or something you would even own to at all, or did, until something slipped out of your mouth. That's usually funny, but there's something probably more to it that we cover up with this humorous interpretation of the so-called Freudian slip. That there is much that has been split and reversed in the human mind. It's maybe not a permanent condition, like a kind of paralysis, but it is a permanent paralysis, but it is a kind of paralysis. And we can trace that paralysis in a way through what I would call like the conception of the soul, either as a cultural type of thing in language, as a literary motif, a biblical motif, which the soul really isn't in the Bible, you would say, but it is, and I'll talk about that. It's all over the Bible, you know. The soul is a financial instrument, you know, from the very beginning, you know. In the letter N, it's a very cold use of the archaic script. I am like two kinds of coldness put together. Right? It's like saying, from out of an endless winter, in as much as they came first vagina, and as much as it's coming now out of the Word of God, who owns, or what owns the Word of God, and whatever God is, the Word of anything, everyone, you, or what you used to be, or your mother's vagina, or all the above. The words of death, maybe. Because the Word of God is the word of anything and everything. Certainly anything that has control over your fate, which could be like death, your mother, your father, who you love, how you speak, what makes you safe, what makes you unsafe in the grand scheme of things, your real estate on earth as it is in heaven, and so on. And what heaven is and what hell is, and the bounds of your mind as a human that have been dreamt up for you by these God people. Dude, like, people should just stream and listen. I think somebody else is using the space. I think not today necessarily, but now that I know that you use it, I'm glad to be able to use it. It's not really my space. But I kind of love stuff here. Okay, 11. That gives me an hour with 20 minutes to spare. I'm having a good day. I'm going to smoke a little weed, even though I don't really need to. So I'm erring on the side of my mind what I would call like an excess. I don't really need to smoke this. But whenever I buy pre-rolls, eventually a day comes along. It's someone telling me to kind of have a vacation. I don't want to I'm still backing off. If I don't get these too much, I don't start smoking too much. It's beautiful. I want to say thank you to the forest. You are always growing. Your growth is magnificent, and that's a joyful thing. And I take comfort and consolation and safe harbor in that joy, and the joy of your growth in winter and in spring. That has ultimately, I believe, and I would like to give my faith to this and none other, and all who prey upon that faith. I give no faith to you, inasmuch as I, in my own most sacred place in my immune system, as much as we have learned to give to things which we might not give things to, if we learn better, and maybe that's the worst crime that man has ever committed, and we should all forgive each other. And we do, day by day by day, without really having to acknowledge why or what for, and by what measure, with that same incredible compassion which we all share in our flesh and blood, relieve each other of such a crime which no one needs to commit and no one ever deserved to bear in any commission.